Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. The hidden gem that I would like to talk about today is The World of the Jinn and the Devils by Dr. Umar Suleiman Al-Ashqar, a professor from the University of Jordan. I found this hidden gem when I was browsing through a Philly Muslim bookstore. Not too many people know about this, but it's based on a topic that many people are intrigued about. So let's just get right into it. Now, you have to understand the importance of the characteristics of Jinn and Satan as it's described in the Quran and the Hadith. And that is the same thing that the teacher of this book is trying to teach us, to know that the Jinn and Satan are known to be deceitful, and we need to know that ongoing struggle between humans and Satan. This book is divided into 6 chapters that discuss the Jinn, their origin, and their characteristics. It also covers topics such as the enmity between humans and Satan, the methods of Satan in misleading mankind, and the weapons that a believer must have against Satan. This book emphasizes the existence of the Jinn and refutes those who deny it. The correct position is that the Jinn are a separate type of being and are responsible for their actions. Most groups of Muslims and even some groups of unbelievers and people of the book, Jews and Christians, acknowledge the existence of Jinn. The existence of Jinn is supported by reports from prophets, and it's not denied by the majority of scholars. There are eyewitness accounts of people encountering and speaking with Jinn. Jinn are created from fire and are distinct from angels. Some animals, like dogs and donkeys, can see Jinn, especially myself when I was in Pakistan. Stray dogs at nighttime would be barking at stuff that you could not see with your human eyes. So they can see, the animals can see. Satan, who was originally a Jinn, rebelled against Allah and is considered a taghut, an arrogant rebel. Satan is a created being and not an evil spirit that resides within humans. Some scholars argue that Satan being exempted from angels in certain verses suggests his Jinn origins. Satan was among the angels and the treasurer of paradise. Stories about him are from Jewish and Christian legends and should be investigated. There is no clear text stating Satan as the origin of all Jinn, but he was one of them. Jinn, including Satan, eat and drink. The Prophet ordered not to clean oneself with dung or bones, as they are food for Jinn. The devils eat with their left hand, and it is prohibited for humans. They also eat and drink without mentioning Allah's name. Carry on without Allah's name is food for devils. So you always have to say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim when you eat, and with your right hand. The Jinn have sexual intercourse, and it is possible for them to marry humans. Some scholars disapprove of these marriages, but it is rare and strange. The Jinn and devils can die, and they live on the same earth as humans, often in places associated with impurity or evil. It is advised to recite Quranic verses to repel them from entering houses, especially if you recite the last 3 verses of the last 3 surahs of the Holy Quran 3 times each, along with the Ayatul Kursi. That will protect you from jinns and devils or any occult attacks. Some key points mentioned in the book are: the devils run away from the call to prayer and cannot stand listening to it. The devils love to sit between the shade and the sunlight, so Muslims are forbidden to sit in such places. The Jinn possesses animals, and their fodder is the dung of animals. Some animals, such as camels, are said to be created from devils. Satan has an ugly appearance, similar to the heads of devils described in the Quran. Satan is said to have 2 horns, and prayer during sunrise or sunset is discouraged due to the association with polytheistic worship. The Jinn have abilities and strengths that surpass humans, such as their speed and ability to eavesdrop on the inhabitants of the heavens. The Prophet informed his companions that shooting stars do not signify the birth or death of anyone, but rather they are a result of the angels praising Allah. He also mentioned that jinn have the ability to communicate and show things like news to humans. Additionally, jinn can take on the form of humans or animals, such as black dogs or cats. The Prophet warned against killing snakes in houses, as they may be jinn who have embraced Islam. If you encounter any situation where there's a snake in the house, always make sure that you use the correct resources or contact the correct authorities who can come and retrieve the snake rather than you do anything or kill it for any reason. Abu al-Sa'ib finds a snake while waiting for Abu Sa'id to finish praying. Abu Sa'id then tells Abu al-Sa'ib a story about a man who killed a snake that was attacking his wife. The Prophet advises to give warning to snakes in the house for 3 days before killing them, in case they are jinn. Snakes with 2 streaks on their back are allowed to be killed. It is clarified that not all snakes are jinn. Satan can flow through humans like blood flows through veins. Jinn have weaknesses and cannot force pious worshippers to go astray. Satan only has power over those who follow and obey him. And keep in mind, anything like that where it happens to you, where it's some kind of a dangerous animal comes into your home, do what you got to do to defend yourself at the end of the day. Desires and wishes harm individuals as they become friends and prisoners of Satan due to their agreement with his desires. Allah allows Satan in this world to have power over his slaves when they open the way for him by obeying him. However, there are instances where humans can overpower Satan by being sincere to Allah and resisting his temptations. It is also possible for a person with strong faith to cause a jinn to become a Muslim. Satan flees from those who hold fast to the rope of Islam and have sincere beliefs, and believers are capable of weakening and belittling him like overpowering a captured camel. In this book, it is mentioned that there is an uncertainty about who Ibn Lahiya heard a hadith from due to the use of a vague term. It is also discussed that the jinn were made subservient to Prophet Suleiman, and performed what he wished. The book also addresses the false accusation made by the Jews that Solomon used magic to control the jinn. It is mentioned that the jinn are incapable of performing miracles or appearing in the form of the Prophet in a dream. And the teaching is there that the jinn are limited in their abilities and cannot go beyond the limits set for them by Allah. The jinn have been created for the same purpose as mankind, which is to worship Allah. They are responsible for their actions and will be judged on the Day of Judgment. Both the believing jinn and unbelieving jinn will receive their respective rewards and punishments. There is a misconception that jinn, being created from fire, will not be affected by fire, but they are different from fire after their creation. The jinn are a creation of Allah and are subservient to him. They do not have any relationship with Allah as some beliefs falsely claim. It is not clear how Allah's revelation reaches the jinn, but it is believed that messengers were sent to them, either jinn messengers or human messengers who also conveyed the message to the jinn. The majority of scholars believe that jinn did not have a messenger or prophet from their kind, although there is no clear proof for this. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent to both jinns and humans, and some jinn became believers when they heard the Quran. The jinn listened to the Prophet reciting the Quran without his knowledge, and later a delegation of jinn met with him to gain knowledge. The Prophet had multiple meetings with the jinn, and in one instance, jinn from Nasib in Yemen asked for provisions. Human and jinn have a complex relationship, while some jinn guiding humans and even converting to Islam. The jinn are of different levels of good and evil and can become believers or disbelievers. So just like you have good and bad in human beings, regardless of race or religion, you have the same duality within the jinn world as well. Satan, a jinn, is the source of enmity between humans and jinn, and his history with Adam plays a role in this. There is a debate among scholars about whether a devil can embrace Islam, but evidence suggests that it is possible. Allah breathed His spirit into Adam and ordered the angels to prostrate to him. Iblis, or Shaitan or Lucifer, who used to worship Allah with the angels, refused out of pride. Satan was cast out of paradise but made a promise to mislead the offspring of Adam till the day of judgment. Allah warns humans about Satan's desire to mislead people and his enmity towards them. Satan's long-term goal is to see humans thrown into the hellfire. His short-term goals include leading people to disbelief and disobedience, planting enmity and hatred among them, and blocking them from obeying Allah. Satan tries to lure people away from good deeds and towards sin and innovation. Satan's goal is to mislead humanity through disbelief and sins, as well as physically and psychologically harm Muslims. He tries to ruin acts of obedience to Allah and whispers distractions during prayer. Satan also encourages the worship of idols and other beings instead of Allah. He orders and encourages evil and fears good deeds. Additionally, Satan can attack the Prophet, bring distressing dreams, cause fires, and play with humans at the time of death. Satan harms humans in various ways, such as causing death, harming newborns, spreading diseases, and sharing in their food, drink, and lodging, meaning their homes. However, there are exemptions, such as Mary and her son, who were protected from Satan's touch. Talks about Prophet Jesus, Isa, peace be upon him, because in our life, Satan touches all of our blood when we are born. So that aspect of that duality is flowing through us, that conflict between good and evil that is always within us, and always that internal struggle that we have. It is important for humans to seek refuge in Allah and follow His guidance to protect themselves from Satan's harm. The book discusses the belief in Jinn possession and the influence of Satan on humans. It mentions that Jinn can enter the body of a possessed person, causing them to speak in tongues and exhibit unusual behavior. The leader of the Jinn, Iblis, strategizes and sends his troops to tempt and misguide humans. It is also stated that every human has a devil assigned to them, and many humans choose to follow him willingly. However, those who ally with Satan will ultimately suffer loss and be led to the fire on the day of resurrection. Satan deceives and abandons his patrons, using them as troops to carry out his plans. It's like the people who sell out in Hollywood or the music industry, right? At the end, they get humiliated and exposed, like we're seeing with one artist in the music industry recently. So that fame and fortune will last you for a certain while, but at the end, you're going to be discarded, embarrassed, shunned, and condemned in this world and in the next. He urges them to commit evil acts and then exposes them, leading to their disgrace. On the day of resurrection, he will disclaim any responsibility for their actions. Satan misleads humans by making evil look good and truth appear as falsehood. He bewitches their minds and leads them astray, causing their distraction and destruction. Satan presents falsehood in an attractive manner and promises paradise for infidelity and disobedience. He uses various tactics to deceive people and lead them away from the path of righteousness. People who criticize or people who prioritize material gain over religion often label religious individuals as backwards or crazy. This is a strategy of Satan to deceive people into rejecting the truth and pursuing destructive paths. Satan also uses deception by giving forbidden actions appealing names, such as calling interest profit or dancing in music art. He takes advantage of humans' tendencies to go to extremes, either by neglecting their duties or becoming overly zealous. Satan also hinders individuals from taking action through procrastination and laziness. It is important for people to stay vigilant and not fall into Satan's traps. People often procrastinate and put off important tasks until the last minute, resulting in rushed and mistake-prone actions. Satan deceives humans by making false promises and giving them sweet dreams, leading them astray. He appears as a sincere advisor, claiming to want what is best for them. One story from the people of the book illustrates Satan's attempts to mislead humans. The story emphasizes the importance of resisting Satan's call to disobedience. The book discusses various methods that Satan uses to misguide mankind. These include telling lies, taking humans step by step towards disobedience, making them forget what is good for them, instilling fear of his supporters, exploiting what humans love or desire, and casting doubts in their mind. These tactics are aimed at shaking their faith and leading them away from the path of Allah, the Most High. The Prophet addressed the issue of people having disturbing thoughts and emphasized that rejecting and disliking such thoughts is part of true faith. The companions of the Prophet also faced similar doubts and sought his guidance. Satan tries to deceive people through whispering thoughts, but Allah protects the Prophet from any sin or mistake. Satan sets traps in different forms to misguide people, such as alcohol, gambling, idols, etc. These acts lead to misguidance, harm, and evil effects. Examples are given of individuals who were influenced by alcohol and engaged in immoral acts. And the word alcohol comes from Al-Kul, the demon. And you ask any law enforcement individual, whether in America or anywhere in the world, that any situation that involved alcohol was not good. So, and also in terms of gambling, also leads to wasting time, wealth, and forbidden acts. I know of a guy whose wife left him and the kids left him because of his gambling habit. He lost everything, the house, the car, everything. The worship of statues and idols is also condemned, as it involves devils and it leads people astray. The book discusses various themes, including the worship of graves, the futility of divining arrows, the existence of magic, the story of the spell on the Prophet Muhammad, human weakness, and women's love for this world. And it's unfortunate the materialism that we're seeing even in today's society. Further, the discussion is there on the various actions and behaviors that are believed to be influenced by Satan. These include women not covering their bodies fully, the use of music and singing, and Satan's ability to deceive and whisper thoughts into human minds. Satan can also take various forms and may appear as a human, a jinn, or claim to be an angel. The book also mentions instances of devils serving humans and even carrying them through the wind. A text by Ibn Taymiyyah describes various individuals who were influenced by devils, shayateen. They would engage in supernatural acts and perform miracles that deceived people into believing they were chosen by Allah. The devils would possess them, communicate with them, and fulfill their desires. People who sought their assistance would pay them money or stolen goods. These individuals would engage in sinful acts and worshiping idols, and the devils would aid them in return. Some of them would claim to be the Mahdi or have divine powers. Now, there's a guy recently who's been going viral for being a Mahdi or a return of the Mahdi. And all of these guys are just Western intelligence assets and agents. I'm not going to mention any specific name, but anyone these days on YouTube or anywhere else claiming to be the Mahdi, they're part of this deception. So have discernment, please. Devils would also communicate through plants, rocks, and animals, influencing and deceiving people. These practices were considered heretical and prohibited. There are three groups of people in regards to invisible beings. One denies their existence, another accepts their existence and sees them as a path to Allah, and the last believes in them but also believes that both groups have received help from Allah. The professor in this book argues that these invisible beings are actually jinn and not humans. He emphasizes the importance of comparing their actions and statements to the Book of Allah and the teachings of the Prophet. He also discusses the ruling of being served by jinn, stating that it is permissible if they are used for permissible activities in order to worship and obey Allah. Now you have some Sufi masters and sheikhs who basically have taught the jinn as well. However, using jinn for prohibited or sinful acts makes a person a disbeliever. The professor also mentions the widespread belief in the appearance of spirits and discusses the deception and trickery used in this practice. He states that deceiving humans in this way is an old trick used by devils to mislead mankind. People are deceived by spiritualists who claim to bring forth spirits using tricks and deceptions. Mediums are often dishonest and not religious. The use of jinn and devils is also a common method. The claim of making spirits appear has been around for a long time, but it is false. The spirits that appear are actually devils. The professor had a personal experience with spiritualists and realized it was all a deception. And he was promised greatness and visited by various spirits, but it was all fake. And further, the professor talks about his experiences meeting scholars who claim to have seen his deceased father, but it is revealed that these are actually jinn impersonating his father and other respected figures. Now, they do that in Hollywood and in the music industry. When they try to get them to come to the other side, they'll always try to prove themselves that they're the real deal, show them their dead parents or show them dead relatives. So it's a part of the convincing factor. And even if you look up that interview from Roger Monroe, who gets interviewed by that church, he'll tell you the same thing, that they tried the same tactic on him. The jinn advise against asking specific questions to avoid being exposed. The professor realizes the deception and burns recordings of their conversations. They warn against believing in appearances of spirits and claim that these experiences are part of a larger plan to ruin religion and faith in Allah. A group of spirits claim to be messengers from Allah with teachings that are more advanced than previous messengers. They believe they can perform miracles similar to those of Jesus. However, it is impossible for spirits to appear and communicate with humans, according to Islamic beliefs. These spirits are actually devils who mislead and deceive people. There have been instances where these spiritualists have been exposed as liars. One example is Peter Goodwin, who claimed to have the ability to be in multiple places at once, but was later found to be a fraud. Peter Goodwin lost his spiritual powers and became like a normal person after using them for material gain. He opened centers for spiritual healing in Britain and selected trainees to work in those centers. However, his powers diminished and he began recording his lectures instead of giving them in person. Eventually, he lost all his powers and does not know why. Some believe that the spirits he claimed to communicate with were actually devils. There is proof that demons can take human form and deceive people. It is also mentioned that the jinn do not have knowledge of the unseen, as shown in the story of Prophet Suleiman. The belief that fortune tellers and soothsayers have the knowledge of the unseen is a great mistake. Only Allah has the knowledge of the unseen, and going to these people for information about the unseen is sinful. Believing in what they say or confirming their statements is disbelief. It is permissible, however, to question them in order to test their credibility. Astrologers who predict the affairs of the earth using celestial bodies are also prohibited in Islam. It is a misconception that these people are sometimes truthful, as their accuracy can be attributed to deception, trickery, or information obtained from the jinn. Fortune tellers and soothsayers are considered messengers of Satan, and their followers are in a different category from the followers of the true messengers of Allah. It is important to recognize the misguidance and falsehood in their claims. People who have knowledge of religion and the teachings of Allah should speak out against and prevent the spread of misguidance and false claims. Those with power should physically stop individuals who claim knowledge of the unseen from spreading these ideas, legally and lawfully, of course. Sightings of unidentified flying objects and encounters with unknown beings are reported regularly, and some believe these beings are jinn. It is important for believers to be cautious and knowledgeable in order to defend against Satan's tricks. Sticking to the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah is the best defense against the devil's influence. The book discusses the importance of seeking refuge and protection from Satan in various situations. It emphasizes the need to follow the straight path of Allah and avoid following the footsteps of Satan. It also mentions the power of seeking refuge in Allah and adhering to His teachings and to rebuke Satan. The book provides examples of seeking refuge during prayer, entering bathrooms, and during times of anger or sexual intercourse. Seek refuge in Allah from Satan and evil influences to prevent harm and increase the benefits of reading the Quran. Invoking Allah's protection and reciting certain verses as invocations can help in seeking refuge from Satan. Seeking refuge in Allah is the strongest way to resist Satan. If one is pious and God-fearing, seeking refuge from Satan becomes like a fire that burns Satan. But if one's faith is weak, it hardly harms Satan at all. Remembrance of Allah is a great act that protects a person from Satan, as it drives away the whispers of the shaitan. The devils are the human's greatest enemies. The only way to be safe from them is through the remembrance of Allah. A hadith narrated by the Prophet, peace be upon him, emphasizes the power of remembrance of Allah in saving a person from various dangers and punishments. Ibn al-Qayyim and Ibn al-Jawzi have differing opinions on the authenticity of this hadith. Al-Sayyuti, al-Munawi, and at-Tarhib min al-Khalil determine that the remembrance of Allah protects against Satan. Saying certain phrases such as "in the name of Allah, la ilaha illallah," and "there is no power or might except in Allah, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah huwal aliyyul azim," can provide guidance, defense, and protection from Satan. Embracing Islam, entering the mosque, and participating in assemblies that make remembrance of Allah also offer protection. So you are who you keep your company with. If you keep your company with the righteous, then that protection of God will be with you. Reciting specific verses, such as the verse of the throne, can protect against oppressive and rebellious devils. And the verse of the throne is the Ayatul Kursi. Seeking refuge in Allah through certain supplications ensures safety. There's a story of a man who tries to find Urwa but is unable to reach him because of words spoken by Urwa in the morning and evening. Urwa only reveals the words to the man when he tells him what he had seen and heard. The angel Gabriel advises the Prophet to seek refuge in the words of Allah when going to bed. So always recite Ayatul Kursi before going to bed, and it'll protect you from psychic attacks, demonic attacks, sleep paralysis, etc. Satan is said to flee from the call to prayer, and one should be excessive in saying, "There is no God but Allah, la ilaha illallah," and asking for forgiveness from Allah. A traveler sees two devils planning to attack a sleeping person, but is unable to do so because the person slept with verses from the Quran. Another person shares a story of using certain words to ward off Jinn, and the Jinn are driven away from him. Constant torment and stealing are experienced by those pursued by a bright fire, and they can protect themselves from Satan through the remembrance of Allah. Living in Muslim countries or Muslim lands and sticking to a pious community can further distance a Muslim from Satan, and they should uncover his plans and differentiate themselves from him. Acting contrary to Satan's characteristics is recommended, such as eating with the right hand and taking short naps and avoiding extravagant spending. The Prophet is instructed to not leave food for Satan and to remove any dirt from it before eating. He also mentioned that Satan is present when taking meals, and it is important to lick the fingers after finishing. The transportation vehicles of today can become vehicles of the devils if they are not used to help those in need. Horses used for gambling are considered horses of Satan. Yawning is something loved by Satan and should be restrained as much as possible. Quick repentance and seeking forgiveness from Allah helps against the plans of Satan. It is important to avoid doubtful situations and to not allow Satan to enter the soul. The Prophet set an example by being cautious and informing others to avoid suspicion. In order to prevent Satan from causing discord and hatred among people, Allah has instructed us to speak kindly to one another. Ibn Taymiyyah explains that possession by jinn can occur due to desires, lust, passions, revenge, or harm caused by humans. Muslims are obligated to enforce Islamic law upon the jinn and inform them of their wrongdoing or ignorance. Killing jinn without proper reason is not permissible, and if necessary, one may strike or curse them to drive them away. The best defense against jinn possession is reciting the Quran, particularly the verse of the throne, the Ayatul Kursi. Many have experienced the effectiveness of this verse in repelling devils and breaking their spells. And I personally have tested this where I was being attacked in a sleep paralysis situation, a demonic attack, and I recited the Ayatul Kursi and it destroyed. It was like a return to sender type of situation, the person who was trying to do that to me. The Prophet Muhammad drove away jinn from possessed individuals. On multiple occasions, the Prophet, peace be upon him, cured possessed individuals by praying to Allah and using physical actions. The person attempting to cure the possessed must have a strong faith and a good relationship with Allah. Incantations and invocations can be used as long as they do not contain polytheism or forbidden statements. Sacrificing to the jinn is prohibited as it is an act of polytheism. The struggle between good and evil is a test for humans, and this is where we find ourselves at the moment. The book discusses how Satan enters a person's soul and controls their desires, leading them towards evil actions. However, Allah has provided messengers, a holy book, and an angel to help resist Satan's influence. The person's intellect and conscience also play a role in resisting evil desires. The book mentions the concept of the soul at peace, which guides the person towards good actions and helps them overcome the temptations of Satan. The person's adherence to Allah's guidance and resistance of desires leads them to rewards in the afterlife. The book emphasizes the shortness and insignificance of worldly life, and how quickly your life will go away and people will forget about you. And if you look at the insignificance of that human life, you compare it to the eternal rewards of the hereafter. And it also warns against prioritizing worldly gains over the hereafter, as one may lose both. So don't sell out for anything, as losing this life will cause you to lose the next one as well. And the book shows that we must be reminded of Allah's judgment and the importance of fearing Him and seeking His pleasure. People are dying, leaving behind those who remain. Allah provides resources to protect us from enemies and ourselves. He orders us to remember Him and pray without turning away from Him. Turning away in prayer angers Allah. Satan tries to distract and tempt us during prayer, especially those that want to go into a mosque and pray all fast and run out of there like they're in a race. Take your time with the prayer. If our heart is not focused on Allah, the prayer has no effect. Prayer brings rest and pleasure, and we should not turn away from it. Now, even in the Sufi path, like, everyone wants to know the secrets, the zikrs, and all of that stuff in between. But the greatest thing that you can do, even on the Sufi path, is strengthen your 5 daily prayers. Now, if you can do that, then that will open everything for you. So make those prayers strong, and then you don't need anything else. Satan can only enter a person's heart when the partition between them and Allah comes down. To make the heart observant during prayer, one must conquer their lusts and desires. There are 3 types of hearts: one empty of faith, one with a mix of faith and darkness, and one filled with faith that protects it from Satan. An analogy of houses is used to illustrate this. Fighting against Satan and his supporters leads to the perfection of worship, and seeking refuge in Allah from Satan brings welfare in this life and the hereafter. The wisdom behind Satan's creation cannot be fully understood by humans. The existence of Satan has made the slaves of Allah fearful for their sins and of their sins. Satan serves as a lesson for those who disobey Allah and a test for his creations. The creation of Satan demonstrates Allah's ability to create opposites and show the virtue of their opposites. Trials and the existence of Satan lead to the actualization of thankfulness in various aspects of worship. The creation of Satan makes Allah's signs clear and demonstrates the wonderfulness of his power. Iblis's creation from fire is a sign of Allah's ability, and many of his attributes appear through the creation of Satan. The creation of Satan highlights Allah's complete rule and control over his creation. The existence of both good and evil is from the completeness of Allah's wisdom. Allah is praised for hindering, subduing, elevating, and granting. In his creation lies perfect wisdom, and for him is the perfect praise. Allah's love for his creation is displayed through his patience, mercy, and generosity towards those who oppose him. Despite their disbelief and disobedience, Allah still grants them blessings and responds to their supplications. This demonstrates his perfection and his ability to provide for even those who deny him. Allah's love for his own names and attributes led him to create a creation that would showcase their excellence and effects. He created beings that deserve his clemency, forgiveness, and justice. The existence of Satan and his army leads to hardships and harm, but it also leads to acts of devotion and sacrifice that are beloved to Allah. Those who bear the harm of Allah's enemies for his sake are greatly rewarded and are considered his beloved. However, those who reject his love will not be able to experience the benefits and pleasures that come from their devotion to him. The book discusses the power of Satan over those who refuse Allah's protection and do not desire his pleasure. It mentions that prophets and messengers die, but this is not a disgrace for them, as it gives them rest from worldly life and honor. Allah sends messengers after them, and their deaths are better for themselves and their nations. The book also highlights Satan's oath to mislead and seduce mankind and mentions that many humans have been misguided and denied Allah and his messengers. The book, in its conclusion as we wrap it up, emphasizes the importance of following the truth and not following the footsteps of Satan. And it also urges believers to submit to Allah and not slide back after receiving clear proofs, right? It's like the story of Moses that is in the both Bible and the Quran, where even after parting the Red Sea, bringing them from captivity, helping them with everything, they still decided to worship the golden calf. So don't be people like that, as there is no relief for you if you fall for the tricks and deception of this world, even after receiving proofs of God. And the book basically tells you to stay on your path and know that the spiritual war that you find yourselves in this current time, do your prayers of protection, do your zikrs. There's a good app. It's called Dhikr and Dua. It's spelled DHIKRDUA. And you can find it in the Play Store and on the App Store. And it has all of the prayers that can help you in terms of the Ayatul Kursi, Ruqya before sleep, morning, evening, and it gives you like that full 360 protection. And that's exactly what it is. And you have to be careful. And also, this book talks about Satan's tactics for misleading humans and the use of Jinn and seances and channeling, people who claim to be channeling stuff. You got to watch out from people like that. And you got to know this topic as how it has a significant impact on the human being. And while some may consider this topic to be of little importance, the professor argues that humans spend a great deal of resources and time studying the possibility of life on other planets while ignoring the existence of the Jinn who live among you and influence your actions and nations. And the emphasis is there on the significance of Quranic verses and hadiths in understanding the world of the Jinn. So do your practices, do your zikrs, do your prayers, And don't fall astray to this world. Don't sell out for fame and fortune. Do not commit evil actions. Everything is simple and straightforward. And if you do that, you'll be protected in this life and the next. So again, I hope you benefited from this great gem that I discovered in a Philly Muslim bookstore. And I encourage you to check this out and support this great man's work. And I'll put the link in the description below from where you can get this book. Take care, and I wish you and yours much peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.